Welcome to David's Stories. Today we follow David Miller, a 68-year-old widower who discovers his beloved daughter has secretly stolen his entire $3 million life savings. What begins as blind trust turns into the ultimate betrayal and a chilling fight for justice. Subscribe, hit the bell, and brace yourself. The story starts now. I was tying my tie when the phone buzzed. The same navy tie with silver threads that Eleanor picked out 12 years ago, the one she said made the gray in my hair look distinguished. I still talk to her photograph every Friday before I leave the house. Silly habit. Comforting habit. Off to Jessica's, I whispered to the smiling woman in the silver frame. I'll tell you about Leo's last soccer game when I get home. 68 years old and Friday dinners with my daughter and grandson were the last bright thread left in my life. 2 years since the cancer took Eleanor, and I had promised myself that I would not let grief swallow me whole. So I dressed up. Charcoal suit, polished shoes, the full armor of a man who still had a family to belong to. The phone buzzed again, harder, like it was angry. Sam Chen, my lawyer, my friend for 30 years. The message was only 5 words, but they hit me like a fist to the sternum. David, don't go anywhere. Call me immediately. Urgent. Sam never uses the word urgent. Not once in 3 decades. Not when Eleanor's will needed changing. Not when the hospital called at 3 a.m. saying she had hours left. Never. My fingers went cold. I thought Mary, his wife, maybe a stroke. Or Sam himself. I hit call before I reached the bench by the door. It rang twice. David. His voice was stripped bare, no warmth, no greeting. Are you alone? Yes. Sam. What? Are you sitting down? I dropped onto the entry bench like my legs had been cut. The jacket slid from my hand to the floor. You're scaring me. A long inhale crackled through the line. I should have called yesterday. I've been pulling statements on your retirement accounts, the updates we did 6 months ago. David, the quarterly reports Jessica has been emailing you. They look fine, I cut in, hearing my own voice from very far away. Stable. She sends them They're forgeries, David. The words landed soft, almost gentle, and detonated inside my chest. Doctored PDFs. The real bank statements tell a different story. I stared at Eleanor's photograph, her smile blurred. Over the last 2 years, Sam continued merciless. Now someone has been liquidating everything. The brokerage is almost empty. The retirement fund has been bled dry through structured withdrawals. $3 million, David. Your life's work. It's nearly gone. $3 million. I built bridges for 42 years. I watched men risk their lives on steel I designed. I came home every night to Eleanor's arms, knowing I had earned the right to keep her safe. That money was her medical bills paid. That money was Leo's college. That money was the promise that I would never be a burden. Gone. That's impossible, I heard myself say. Only I can. No, David, Sam's voice cracked just once. One other person can. The durable power of attorney you signed in the hospital when Eleanor was dying. The one that lets someone manage everything if you ever couldn't. I knew. I knew before he said it. Jessica, he whispered. She's been bleeding you dry. The phone slipped. I caught it against my shoulder. My lungs forgot how to work. The hallway tilted, oak floor rising like a wave. Not my Jessica, not the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest while I read her The Hobbit in voices. Not the teenager who cried into my shirt the night her first love broke her heart. Not the bride who walked toward me down the aisle glowing like sunrise. Sam was still talking, but the words smeared into white noise. I saw flashes instead. Jessica at my kitchen table a year ago, sliding papers across. Don't worry, Dad, the market's volatile. Let me handle everything. Her smile so bright it hurt to look at. Jessica waving off a property tax panic. Already taken care of. Move some funds from the growth portfolio. Casual, loving, Jessica discouraging bank visits. The new tellers are awful, Dad. You'll just get frustrated. I'll take care of it. Kindness. Every time it had felt like kindness. Now every memory twisted into something obscene. David, listen. Sam said sharp now, dragging me back. This is the most important part. You cannot let her know that you know. Do you understand? You still have to go to that dinner tonight. Smile. Ask about Leo. Act normal. If she suspects, she'll move whatever's left offshore. Crypto gone forever. We need time to trace it. I found my voice somewhere under the rubble. You're asking me to sit across from her and pretend she didn't murder my future. I'm asking you to be the smartest man I've ever known. One more night, then we go to war. War. I was a retired civil engineer who still sharpened his own pencils. I designed load-bearing members, not battle plans. But something cold and ancient woke up inside my rib cage. I understand, I said. The words tasted like iron. I hung up. The house was silent except for the grandfather clock Eleanor loved. Tick, tick, tick. Each second, a hammer on the coffin of the man I used to be. I looked in the hall mirror. The man staring back had eyes too wide, skin suddenly papery, mouth trembling like a child's. 10 years older in 10 minutes. That man could not walk into his daughter's palace built from his bones and smile. I had to bury him. I picked the jacket up off the floor, slipped it on, straightened the collar, smoothed the lapels with hands that no longer shook. Then I walked out the door into the cool Denver evening, leaving the old David behind in the empty house with Eleanor's photograph. The drive to Jessica's neighborhood was a descent into enemy territory. Manicured lawns, gated drives, houses that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. My daughter lived in the biggest one, white stone and glass glowing like a jewel against the dusk. The gates opened for me without a sound as they always had. Tom answered the door in a cashmere sweater that probably cost $2,000. My money. His wide smile felt like a slap. "David, good to see you, son." He clapped my shoulder hard, proprietary. I smiled back. The muscles in my face felt borrowed. Inside the atrium soared 2 stories high. Italian marble, chandelier like frozen starlight. The scent of lilies and cedar, expensive, curated, obscene. Jessica emerged from the living room in cream silk diamonds flashing at her throat and wrist. "Addie," she kissed my cheek, cool lips perfume that cost more per ounce than my first car. "You look tired. Everything okay?" "Just a long week, sweetheart." The word sweetheart scraped my throat raw. She led me past the abstract painting I remembered her admiring 6 figures easy, past the sapphire on her finger I had never seen before. Leo was at a sleepover. Part of me ached. Most of me felt cowardly relief. I wasn't ready to look into those innocent green eyes tonight. Tom poured sparkling water into crystal. Jessica arranged herself on the white leather sofa like a queen. "We have exciting news," Tom boomed. "Traded the old sedan for a Porsche, and Jess just landed the Fairmont Hotel contract. We're celebrating the Porsche I helped him buy 3 years ago was apparently the old sedan now." I raised my glass. "That's wonderful." My voice sounded almost human. Halfway through dinner, Jessica set down her fork and adopted that soft, worried mother voice I once lived for. "Dad, I've been looking at your latest statements. The market's shaky. Maybe we should move some of the aggressive funds into long-term bonds, just to protect you." Translation, lock down whatever scraps she hadn't stolen yet. The audacity stole my breath. Sam's warning rang in my skull. Act normal. I set my fork down gently. "That's sweet of you, honey, but I have complete faith in how you're handling everything. You've taken such a weight off my shoulders." The relief that flickered across her face was microscopic, but I saw it. Shoulders eased, eyes softened. The predator believed the prey was still blind. Good. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of their triumphs, their plans, their Amalfi Coast summer, the private school waiting list for Leo. Every word another twist of the knife. I nodded, I smiled. I played the proud, slightly senile father, thrilled to be allowed at the table. Inside, something was crystallizing hard and sharp and cold. When I finally stood to leave, Jessica hugged me again. The diamonds on her bracelet pressed into my back like tiny teeth. "Drive safe, Daddy. Text me when you get home." "I will, sweetheart." In the car, I gripped the wheel until my knuckles went white. The war Sam spoke of. It had already begun, and the first battle was surviving the night without screaming. I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet without Eleanor's breathing beside me. The silence pressed against my eardrums like water. I sat in the dark living room, still in the charcoal suit tie, loosened glass of bourbon, untouched on the coffee table. My eyes kept drifting to the family photographs on the mantel. Jessica at 6, gap-toothed, holding a dandelion. Jessica at 16, prom dress, arms around my neck. Jessica on her wedding day, eyes shining with tears when I gave her away. Every picture felt radioactive now. I had spent 2 years telling myself I was the luckiest father alive. My daughter wanted to take care of me. My daughter still needed me. My daughter loved me enough to handle the messy details of money so I could just grieve and heal. What a convenient fairy tale. The first lie came back to me like a slap. It was 3 weeks after the funeral. I was still sleeping in the recliner because the bed smelled too much like hospital. Jessica arrived with a thick folder and that gentle, determined smile. Dad, you shouldn't have to deal with all this right now. She sat beside me, opened the folder, slid a pen into my hand. This is just a durable power of attorney. In case anything happens, I can pay bills, talk to the banks, keep everything running smoothly. You won't have to think about it. I remember hesitating. The engineer in me hates handing over control of anything. But she laid her head on my shoulder the way she did when she was 8 and afraid of thunderstorms. Mom would want me to take care of you, she whispered. So I signed. One signature, one moment of weakness dressed as love, and I handed her the keys to my entire life. I poured the bourbon down the sink and started pacing. Memory number 2 hit harder. 6 months later, I'd noticed a large withdrawal on a statement, $48,000. I called her confused. Hey, sweetheart, there's a big transfer here I don't recognize. Her laugh was light musical. Oh, Dad, that's the property tax escrow I set up. Denver raised the rates again. I moved money from the growth portfolio so you wouldn't feel it. Totally normal. I emailed you the new report. Did you see it? I had seen it. Clean professional numbers neatly in the black. I'd felt proud that my little girl was so capable. I opened my laptop now, hard hammering, and pulled up every quarterly report she'd ever sent. Same elegant letterhead, same reassuring cover note. Thinking of you, Dad. Everything is safe. I clicked the PDF properties. Metadata, created yesterday. Every single one of them created in the last 18 months. Not a single original file older than that. My hands shook so badly I had to grip the desk. She hadn't just stolen the money. She had manufactured an entire illusion of safety while she hollowed me out. Another memory clawed its way up sharp as broken glass. A year ago, I was in the kitchen making coffee. Jessica walked in wearing a new diamond bracelet that caught the morning light like fire. Do you like it? She held her wrist out, beaming. Tom surprised me for our anniversary. I whistled. That must have set him back a bit. She laughed, kissed my cheek. He said I deserved something special after everything we've been through with Mom. Everything we've been through, I wanted to vomit. I remembered the exact day that money left my brokerage account, $212,000 wired to a jewelry account in New York. I'd asked no questions because the next quarterly report showed the balance unchanged. Magic. I sank onto the sofa and let the memories flood me, each one a fresh wound. The unexpected medical deductible she paid when I had a minor heart scare. The roof repair on this house that never happened. The charitable donation in Mom's memory that bought them a second honeymoon in Bora Bora. Every time I expressed the tiniest concern, she soothed me with hugs and spreadsheets and that soft, patient voice, Dad, you're grieving. Let me carry this. Grieving, yes. She had weaponized my grief, turned my love into a blindfold, my trust into shackles. I stood up and walked to the safe in my office, the one she didn't know the combination to. Inside were the originals, the real bank statements I'd stopped opening because Jessica said it was easier if she just summarized everything. I pulled out the most recent one dated 3 weeks ago. Balance $41,312.47, $41,000 left of $3 million. Laughed then, a raw, ugly sound that scared even me. $41,000 in a house she hadn't managed to steal yet. I thought of the Porsche in her driveway, the infinity pool, the sapphire on her finger, the lies she told with my dead wife's memory still warm on her lips. Something inside my chest snapped, not with despair, but with a clean, cold break. The father who would have died for her was gone. In his place stood a man who had spent 40 years calculating stress loads, failure points, collapse sequences. She thought she was hunting a broken old widower. She had no idea she had just woken an engineer who now understood exactly where the weak points in her structure were. I looked at the clock. 3:17 a.m. In 4 hours, I would call Sam. In 5 hours, Chloe would start mapping every stolen dollar. In 6 hours, the performance of my life would continue. But tonight in the dark, I made a promise to the empty house and to the woman smiling in the silver frame. I will take back what is mine, every cent, every tear, every lie. And when I am finished, Jessica will learn what happens when you build your palace on a foundation you stole from a man who knows exactly how bridges fall. I closed the safe. For the first time since Sam's call, I felt something stronger than pain. I felt the precise, icy clarity of a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to destroy. I pulled into their circular driveway at 6:58 p.m., exactly 2 minutes early, the way Eleanor always taught me. The gates recognized my car and opened like a polite lie. The house glowed white stone glass walls, every light perfectly placed to say, "Look how far we've come." I sat for 10 full seconds, engine running. I was staring at the front door. Sam's words looped in my skull. Well, I was asked about Leo. Let her believe she is still in complete control. I killed the engine, took one breath that tasted like rust. Then I became the best actor of my life. Tom opened the door before I reached it, cashmere sweater, the color of money grin, wide enough to swallow the world. David, right on time as always. He clapped my shoulder hard the way men do when they think affection is measured in bruises. Come in, come in. Jess is dying to show you the new painting. I smiled. My cheeks felt carved from wood. The foyer hit me like a museum. Italian marble so polished I could see my own distorted reflection. Older, smaller, a ghost in my own story. A chandelier exploded overhead in crystal shards. Lilies on the console, the same scent Eleanor used to wear, now weaponized into something expensive and cruel. Jessica stepped out of the living room, cream silk dress clinging to every perfect curve, diamonds flashing at her throat, her wrist, her ears. My diamonds. My blood turned into stones. Daddy. She glided forward, arms open. You made it. The hug was brief, cool, staged. Her perfume wrapped around me like expensive barbed wire. You look tired, she murmured against my cheek, the way a doctor says it right before the bad news. Everything okay? Just a long week, sweetheart. The word sweetheart scraped coming out, but she didn't notice. Predators rarely hear the praise pain. She looped her arm through mine and led me deeper into the palace. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the infinity pool, and the Denver skyline beyond glittering like broken promises. On the far wall hung the painting massive violent slashes of crimson and gold. I remembered her pointing it out at a gallery opening 8 months ago. Isn't it divine, Dad? Only 2 million. 2 million. I had smiled then and said, art is in the eye of the beholder. Tonight I wanted to put my fist through it. Tom pressed a glass of sparkling water into my hand. Leo's at a sleepover, unfortunately. Kid stuff. But we have the whole evening. Disappointment and relief hit me at the same time. I wasn't ready to look into my grandson's eyes and lie. We moved to the living room, white leather sofas so pristine I was afraid to sit. Jessica arranged herself like a queen on a throne, legs crossed silk, sliding higher on her thigh. Tom sprawled beside her, one arm draped possessively across the back of the couch, fingers brushing her shoulder. I took the single chair opposite them, the lone peasant before royalty. Tom raised his glass. To family, I drank. The bubbles tasted like acid. Conversation started light, their favorite subject themselves. Tom launched into the Porsche story, finally traded in that old Lexus, the 911 Turbo S Midnight Blue, 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. You should take it for a spin, David. The old Lexus I had co-signed for 3 years ago. Paid off early with a bonus he claimed came from a big commission. Jessica laughed, musical practiced. Tom's been like a kid at Christmas. And speaking of wins, my firm just landed the new Fairmont downtown. 42 floors, Dad. My design. We're celebrating tonight. She lifted her wine glass, the sapphire on her finger, catching the light like a cold blue eye. I had never seen that ring before. I didn't need to check the statements to know exactly when it was purchased. I smiled until my face hurt. That's wonderful, honey. I'm so proud. Proud. The word tasted like poison. They asked about my week. I gave them pruning roses and the new bird feeder. Their eyes glazed over in seconds. They didn't want my life. They wanted my applause. Then came the moment I had been dreading and craving all at once. Jessica set her fork down with delicate precision. The caring daughter mask slid into place, soft eyes tilted, head voice dipped in honey. "Dad, I've been going over your latest quarterly numbers." She reached for a leather folder on the side table, exactly like the ones she used to bring me when she needed another signature. "The market's getting volatile. Some of your positions have taken hits. I'm worried." My pulse hammered so hard I was sure they could see it in my throat. She opened the folder, slid a glossy page across the coffee table. Bar charts, red arrows pointing down. A performance summary that looked official, terrifying, and completely fabricated. "I think we should move the remaining aggressive funds into long-term bonds. Safer, locked. You've worked too hard to risk it now." Translation: whatever crumbs are left, I want them bolted down where you can't accidentally discover they're missing. The audacity was a living thing crawling across the table toward me. Every instinct screamed to lunge across the glass, grab her by that perfect silk collar, and roar, "I know what you've done. I know every dollar you stole while I buried your mother." Instead, I looked at the page, like a confused old man squinted, turned it sideways. Let my hand tremble just enough. "Gosh, Jess, all these numbers. My eyes aren't what they used to be." Tom leaned forward, earnest, helpful. "That's why Jess is on it, sir. She's brilliant with this stuff." I let out a small, defeated chuckle. "You're right, I don't know what I'd do without her." Jessica's shoulders relaxed a fraction. The predator smelled continued submission. I leaned back, took a slow sip of water, and delivered the line Sam and I had rehearsed until it felt natural. "You know, sweetheart, I have absolute faith in how you're handling everything. You've taken such a weight off my shoulders these past 2 years. Truly. I sleep better knowing you're looking out for me." Her eyes softened, real warmth this time, or the closest thing to warmth a sociopath can manufacture. She reached across and squeezed my hand. "That's what family is for Daddy." The diamonds on her bracelet pressed into my skin like teeth. I held her gaze and smiled, the warm, rusting smile of a man who still believed his little girl hung the moon. Inside, something roared so loudly I was shocked the crystal didn't shatter. The rest of the meal blurred. They talked about kitchen renovations, marble from Carrara, a summer house in Tuscany. They were considering private pilots on standby. Every sentence another brick in the monument to my ruin. I nodded. I laughed at the right times. I asked about Leo's school play. I was flawless. Dessert was a chocolate torte flown in from Paris that morning. Tom bragged about the carbon footprint like it was a badge of honor. When Jessica excused herself to take a call from the Fairmont architect, Tom leaned in, man-to-man, voice low. "Between us, David just works too hard. She worries about you constantly." All this, he swept an arm around the cathedral of stolen money. "It's so she can give you the best care later. When you need it, later. When I'm too feeble to notice the bars on the gilded cage." I raised my glass. "She's an angel." Tom beamed, missing the ice beneath the words completely. Jessica returned, glowing phone still in hand. "They want to name the penthouse restaurant after Mom. Eleanor's. Isn't that perfect? Using her dead mother's name to sell $50 cocktails." I felt the bourbon from last night rise in my throat. "Perfect," I echoed. At 10:12 p.m. I stood to leave. My legs were steady now. The performance had fused to my bones. Jessica walked me to the door, Tom trailing behind with more backslaps. She hugged me again, longer this time. "Drive safe, Daddy. Text me when you're home." "I worry." I hugged her back, felt the sharp edges of the necklace against my cheek, breathed in the scent of lilies and betrayal. "I always do, sweetheart." In the car, doors locked, the windows up. I let the mask crack for the first time in 4 hours. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat perfectly still and felt the rage settle into something pure, surgical, unstoppable. They thought tonight was another victory. They had no idea they had just invited the enemy to dinner. Let him count every weapon on the table, memorize every exit, and walk out with the blueprint to burn their kingdom down. I started the engine. The war, Sam promised, it wasn't coming. It was already here. And I had just drawn first blood. The next morning, I woke before the sun the way I used to when we were pouring concrete at 4 a.m. on the I-70 bridge project. Some habits never die. Others, I decided, were going to be buried today. I showered, shaved, put on the darkest suit I owned, the one I wore to Eleanor's funeral, and drove downtown to Sam Chen's office. No breakfast. My stomach was a clenched fist. Sam's building still smelled of old paper and strong coffee, exactly like it had for 30 years. His receptionist took one look at my face and didn't bother with pleasantries. She simply pressed the intercom. "He's here." Sam met me at the door himself, no tie. Sleeves rolled, eyes bloodshot. He had not slept either. He closed the door, locked it, and for the first time in our friendship, he hugged me hard, quick, the way men do when words would break them. Then he stepped back and became the general. "Meet Chloe Armstrong," he said. She was already in the room, standing by the window, backlit like a blade. 30, maybe 32. Short black hair, sharper cheekbones, eyes that cataloged everything and forgave nothing. She wore a charcoal sheath dress in the stillness of a sniper. No handshake, just a nod that somehow felt more respectful than any smile could have. "Mr. Miller," she said. Her voice was low, precise, expensive. "I've been tracing your money since 3:12 this morning. You are going to want to sit down." I sat. Sam poured coffee I didn't touch. Chloe opened a laptop and turned it toward me. The screen lit up with a spider web of red arrows and black boxes. My life reduced to a crime diagram. $3,142,000 gone in 26 months. She began without preamble. Not random. Surgical. She's brilliant, actually. Monthly withdrawals just under the fraud alert thresholds. Transfers routed through 4 shell entities, then into Elysian Designs, LLC, her interior design company that has never filed taxes. From there, the money fractures again. High-risk resort development in Quintana Roo, Mexico. Project name, Mar de Sueños. Managing partner, Thomas Michael Reynolds. Your son-in-law. She clicked. A satellite image appeared, half-built condos on a beach, cranes frozen mid-air, weeds growing through cracked concrete. Over budget by 230%, she continued. Investors pulling out. The last cash infusion was 94 days ago. 180,000 from your brokerage. They are hemorrhaging. They need a final 8-figure lifeline, or the whole thing collapses by Christmas. Sam's voice was gravel. Guess what the only unencumbered 8-figure asset left is? My house. The one Eleanor and I paid off in 2009. The one with both our names on the deed until death do us part. Chloe clicked again. A new slide, purchase records. Porsche. Cartier bracelet. The sapphire ring. Private jet receipts to Tulum, signed J. Miller. Every line item dated within 48 hours of a withdrawal from my accounts. My hands started shaking. Not fear. Recognition. Sam leaned forward. "We can sue civilly tomorrow and probably freeze what's left, but she'll lawyer up, drag it out, hide the rest offshore. We'd get pennies after years. That's not enough." He looked at Chloe. She gave the smallest nod. Sam's eyes met mine, fierce and bright. "We're not going to ask for our money back, David. We're going to make her beg to give it to us." He laid it out like a military campaign. Phase 1, information warfare. Chloe works in the dark subpoenas, forensic imaging of Jessica's devices, tracing every offshore whisper. Sam files quiet discovery requests that look routine but will become landmines later. My job, continue the performance of the loving, slightly confused father. Feed her ego. Keep her arrogant. Phase 2. The trap. Chloe took over, voice calm as winter steel. "Your daughter believes 2 things," she said. 1, you are emotionally fragile and financially illiterate. 2, the house is the ultimate prize. Illiquid, sentimental, impossible for you to sell without her noticing. She's patient. She thinks she can wait for nature to finish the job. She clicked to a photograph of my house at sunset, Eleanor, in the garden, roses blazing. "We are going to threaten the one thing she cannot wait for." Sam finished it. "You are going to let it slip through the biggest gossip in your social circle that you are lonely, overwhelmed, and seriously considering selling the house to move into a luxury retirement community in Scottsdale. Full liquidation, cash out, new life, no upkeep, no memories." I felt the air leave the room. Chloe's eyes never left mine. She will panic. The house is her endgame. Selling it brings in realtors, appraisers, title searches, people who will see the real financials. More importantly, it cuts off the inheritance she's counting on to save the Mexico project. She will move to stop you. Hard. Sam's smile was thin and terrible. And when she does, she will overplay her hand. She'll try to prove you're incompetent. She'll invoke the power of attorney, maybe even petition for conservatorship. She'll drag this into open court thinking she's locking you away. He leaned in until I could smell the coffee on his breath. That courtroom will be the kill box, David. She will walk in believing she's the plaintiff. She'll walk out in handcuffs. I stared at the spiderweb on the screen, my stolen life mapped and weaponized. Something inside me that had been screaming since Sam's phone call finally went quiet. Not peace, clarity. I looked at Chloe. How sure are you that every dollar can be traced at 98%, she said without hesitation. The 2% is in crypto wallets I haven't cracked yet. Give me 10 more days. I turned to Sam, and legally I've already drafted the counter petition. Elder financial abuse breach of fiduciary duty, fraud forgery. Colorado statutes treat this like armed robbery with a smile. When we drop our evidence packet, the judge won't just deny her conservatorship. She'll refer the case to the DA the same day. He paused softer now. But David, this only works if you can keep wearing the mask. Every phone call, every visit, every hug. You have to be the broken old man they need you to be. Can you do that? I thought of Jessica's diamonds pressing into my back last night. I thought of Eleanor's empty side of the bed. I thought of Leo, 16 years old, who still didn't know his college fund had been gambled on a failing beach resort. I stood up. I spent 42 years making sure bridges didn't fall down, I said. I can pretend to be weak for a few more weeks. Chloe closed the laptop with a soft, final click. Sam walked me to the door. His hand on my shoulder was the only warm thing I had felt in days. One more thing, he said quietly. When this is over, the money comes back, most of it. But she's still your daughter. You need to decide now what mercy looks like. I looked him in the eye. Mercy, I said, is Leo never having to visit his mother in prison on holidays. That's the only mercy I have left. Sam's face hardened with understanding. He nodded once. Chloe spoke from the window, voice like a blade sliding home. Then let's get to work, Mr. Miller. Your daughter declared war 2 years ago. Today, we return fire. I walked out of that office a different man. The grieving father was still there, bleeding somewhere deep, but riding shotgun now was something colder, older, and infinitely patient. An engineer who had finally located the exact load-bearing lie in the structure his daughter built. And I was going to bring the whole thing down beam by beam until the only thing left standing was the truth. Phase 1 began that same afternoon. I called Jessica just to say I'd made it home safe like the worried old man she wanted. Missed you already, Dad, she said, voice warm with victory. Let's do lunch soon. I'd love that, sweetheart, I replied, and the endearment no longer tasted like ash. It tasted like bait. Tuesday, 10:03 a.m. I waited until I knew Jessica would be in the middle of her weekly design team meeting. Perfect timing. She'd be distracted, phone on silent, forced to see my name flash and let it go to voicemail. Irritation, first worry, second. Exactly the order I wanted. I called. 1 ring, 2, 3, voicemail. Hi, honey, I said, letting my voice crack just enough. It's nothing urgent. I just got some paperwork from an insurance agent about beneficiaries and probate, and it's all swimming in front of me. Mom used to handle this stuff. Could you come by later and help your old dad make sense of it whenever you're free? Love you. I hung up and stared at the phone like it was a loaded gun. Phase 1 of the trap had begun. She arrived at 2:47 p.m., my heels clicking across my driveway like gunfire. I watched from the window, designer trench coat, oversized sunglasses, the sapphire ring flashing like a warning beacon. She looked furious and terrified at the same time. I opened the door before she could knock. Daddy, instant performance arms, wide smile, bright, worried, dialed to 11. Your message scared me half to death. Are you okay? I played the part, shoulders a little stooped, eyes, watery hands fluttering like I couldn't quite remember where to put them. Oh, sweetheart, I'm sorry. It's just these forms. I can't make head or tail of them. She stepped inside, kissed my cheek, and the scent of her perfume, the same one that cost $4.20 an ounce, made my stomach turn. We sat at the kitchen table where she had stolen my life, one signature at a time. I had her favorite tea ready, Earl Grey with bergamot, 2 sugars, exactly the way she liked it when she was 10. Nostalgia is a brutal weapon. I pushed the fake insurance papers toward her as Sam had printed them on perfect letterhead. Beneficiary changes, probate warnings, large bold numbers. Nothing that actually mattered, everything that looked terrifying to a guilty conscience. She scanned them quickly, professionally, the way a shark smells blood. Dad, this is nothing to worry about, she soothed, already taking the pen from my hand. I'll handle all of it. You don't need to think about this ever again. I let my voice tremble. You're a lifesaver, Jesse. My head just isn't what it used to be. She squeezed my hand, diamond bracelet cold against my skin. That's why I'm here. As she stood to leave, I executed the second move, small, almost accidental. Oh, shoot, I said, patting my pockets with theatrical panic. I must have left my wallet in your car last Friday. Getting so forgetful. She rolled her eyes, affectionate, superior. It's fine, Dad. I'll look for it later. Just be more careful, okay? The door closed behind her. I stood in the silence and smiled for the first time in days. Wallet was in my back pocket the whole time. Now I had the perfect excuse to drop by her house unannounced anytime I wanted. Thursday, the real bait. I met Arthur Gable at the old diner on Colfax, same booth we'd sat in for 40 years. Arthur Widower, ex-Rotary president, in the single most efficient gossip pipeline in Denver. A secret told to Arthur at noon was front-page neighborhood news by dinner. We talked about grandkids and cholesterol and the Broncos for 20 safe minutes. Then I let my shoulders sag. You know, Arthur, this big house is starting to feel like a museum. Eleanor's roses take 4 hours to prune. The stairs are getting steeper every year. I've been thinking. He leaned in, already smelling blood in the water. There's this place in Scottsdale, my friend Richard moved there. Golf course, pool, meals catered, no maintenance. He says all he does is choose what to have for dinner and play gin rummy. Arthur's eyes widened. Jackpot. I'd have to sell the house, of course, I continued, voice soft, broken. Liquidate everything. Start fresh. I miss having people around. And the quiet here at night, it's too much. Arthur reached across and patted my hand. David, that sounds like a wonderful idea. You deserve easy. I managed a sad smile. Keep it to yourself, okay? I haven't told Jessica yet. Don't want to upset her, Arthur promised. We both knew he was physically incapable of keeping that promise. I left the diner with my heart hammering so hard I had to sit in the car for 5 minutes before driving. The seed was planted. Chloe texted at 4:12 p.m. Movement on Elysian Designs account. Large transfer attempt, block my new bank alerts. They're getting nervous. At 6:15 p.m. my phone exploded. Jessica. I let it ring 4 times long enough for panic to bloom. Dad, her voice was tight, rehearsed concern stretched over pure terror. Arthur Gable just called me. He said you're thinking of selling the house and moving to Arizona. I made my voice small, tired, confused. Oh, was I not supposed to mention it? Arthur and I were just talking. It's only an idea, honey. This place is so much work. Sell the house. The words shot an octave higher. Dad, you can't. That's our family home. Mom's memories are in every room. The garden she planted, the kitchen where we made Christmas cookies. How could you even think of letting strangers live here? The performance was Oscar-worthy. I almost believed her. I'm just getting old, Jesse, I said, using her childhood nickname like a knife. The yard, the repairs. I thought maybe somewhere with sunshine and no stairs. No, 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 she interrupted, words tumbling over each other. We can fix this. We'll hire a full-time gardener, a handyman, a housekeeper, whatever you need. I'll manage everything. You don't have to lift a finger. Just, please don't make any rash decisions. Don't call a realtor. Promise me you'll let me help. I let the silence stretch just long enough. I promise I'll think about it. I said, finally, vague, defeated. She exhaled like I'd handed her oxygen. I love you, Dad. We'll figure this out together. I love you too, sweetheart. I hung up and stared at the darkening sky. The bait was swallowed whole. She was thrashing on the hook and didn't even know the line was attached to a winch. Friday morning, Chloe sent a secure file. Inside, a single photograph taken from public records in Cancun. Tom on a yacht, arms around two investors, all three men red-faced drunk. Timestamp 3 weeks ago, the yacht was registered to Mar de Sueños LLC. Estimated value 4.2 million. Another file frantic emails between Tom and the lead contractor, subject lines screaming, final deadline investors threatening litigation need, 12 MUSD, in 60 days or we lose everything. They weren't just desperate, they were drowning. And the house, my house, Eleanor's house, was the last life raft. Saturday, 11:04 a.m., the follow-up strike. Jessica texted Tom and I were just in the neighborhood. Can we swing by? I have portfolio projections that will put your mind at ease about the house. Translation: we are coming to lock you down before you do something stupid. Replied instantly. Doors always open, honey. I had 60 minutes. I moved through the house like a ghost with purpose. On the mantel sat Eleanor's little decorative birdhouse, hand-painted, whimsical, meaningless to anyone but us. I turned it over. The base was hollow. Owen had given me a recording device no bigger than a nickel, military-grade, voice-activated 8-day battery crystal, clear from 30 feet. I taped it inside the birdhouse, adjusted the angle a fraction of an inch, so the tiny lens had a perfect view of the sofa. Then I brewed tea I would never drink and waited. They arrived in a storm of concern and expensive cologne. Jessica wore a sharp camel blazer and the expression of a general who had already won. Tom carried a thick leather folder like a shield. We sat. I made sure they took the sofa directly in the birdhouse's line of fire. Jessica wasted no time. Dad, we were so worried after our last conversation. She opened the folder, spreading glossy charts across the coffee table. Selling now would be a disaster. Look, market downturn, you'd lose at least 15%. And emotionally, Mom's memories. I squinted at the pages like they were written in Aramaic. Let my hands shake. Oh my, that's a lot of numbers, Jess. Tom jumped in earnest, oily. That's why we're here, sir. Jess is brilliant with this. We just don't want you to make a decision you'll regret. I shook my head slowly. I don't know, kids. The yard's too big, the stairs. Arizona sounds simple. No charts, just sunshine. Jessica's mask flickered, frustration, fear, fury. She softened her voice until it could cut glass. Think about Mom, Dad. You can't sell the only place her spirit still lives. Using Eleanor as a crowbar, I felt something inside me fracture and reform harder. I stood. You've given me a lot to think about. Let me make some tea. My head spinning. I walked to the kitchen, slowly counting every step. The moment the kettle began its whine, their voices dropped to urgent whispers. I pressed my back against the wall, heart slamming against my ribs, and listened. Tom, first thin and shaking. You don't think he'll actually call a realtor, do you, Jessica? The Mexico investors are threatening lawsuits. We need another capital injection yesterday. Jessica's reply was pure ice. He won't sell. I won't let him. He's more confused than I thought. This Arizona fantasy proves it. But what if then we take the next step? A pause sharp enough to draw blood. I'll get Dr. Miller to write a stronger evaluation. The power of attorney isn't enough to stop a sale if he's determined. We need a full conservatorship. We need control. It's the only way to protect the family's interests. Protect the family. I gripped the counter until my knuckles went white. The kettle screamed. I clattered cups loudly, giving them time to recompose their faces. When I returned with the tray, they were the picture of loving children again. They left 20 minutes later with promises and hugs and the taste of victory in their mouths. I waited until their taillights disappeared. Then I walked to the mantel, hands trembling this time for real, and removed the tiny device from the birdhouse. I sat in Eleanor's favorite armchair, plugged it into my phone, and pressed play. My own voice feeble and confused. Tom's panic about Mexico, and Jessica, my little girl, cold, clinical, merciless. We need a conservatorship. We need full control. I listened twice. The first time, something inside me shattered forever. The second time, the engineer took over. I texted Sam and Chloe a single line, "We have the kill shot." Then I looked at Eleanor's photograph and spoke aloud to the empty room. She just signed her own warrant, darling. Hold on, justice is coming. I didn't sleep after the recording. I sat in the dark living room with the tiny black device in my palm, turning it over and over like, a live grenade. Every few minutes I pressed play again just to be sure I hadn't imagined it. We need a conservatorship. We need full control. Her voice. My daughter's voice. Cold, flat, final. I listened until the words stopped hurting and started fueling. At 4:11 a.m., I emailed the file to Sam and Chloe with a single line. She just handed us the war. Sam called it 6:03. Jesus Christ, David, his voice cracked on the second word. This is beyond gold. This is plutonium. I'm coming over. He and Chloe arrived together at 7:15, both still in yesterday's clothes. Chloe carried a silver hard case like a bomb tech. Sam's eyes were shining with something that looked a lot like joy. We sat at the kitchen table, same table where Jessica had stolen my life, one smile at a time. Chloe opened the case. Inside a professional transcription, timestamps, voice stress analysis, and a second drive with the original file forensically sealed. This is courtroom ready, she said quietly. Chain of custody perfect. No judge on earth will doubt authenticity. Sam slid a legal pad across. On it, he had already written the charges in his neat engineer's handwriting. Elder financial abuse, R18 to 6.5, 103. CRS theft, over $2 million, class 2 felony. Conspiracy to commit same potential forgery. We're still digging. He tapped the pad twice. When this recording is played in open court, her conservatorship petition becomes a suicide note. I stared at the words until they blurred. Sam's voice softened. You still with us, David? I looked up. I'm not with you. I'm ahead of you. Something in my tone made Chloe's eyes narrow with approval. Sam exhaled. Then let's finish this. Phase 2 was no longer theoretical. It was live ammunition. The next 10 days were the longest and shortest of my life. I lived two realities at once. Reality one, the grieving, slightly confused father. I called Jessica twice, voice trembling, asking for help with simple things, changing the thermostat code, understanding a water bill. Each time she soothed and patronized and tightened the noose, she thought she was weaving around me. Reality two, the silent war. Chloe worked 18-hour days. Every evening she sent encrypted updates. Day 3, confirmed offshore account in Grand Cayman, 487K. Opened in Leo's name, a college fund facade. Day 5 found the Mexican resort's private ledger. They are $11.4 million short. Final deadline, December 31st, day 8. Discovered forged durable power of attorney addendum, dated 3 weeks after Eleanor's death. Jessica's handwriting notarized by a man who died last year. And then on day 9, the bomb that broke me all over again. Chloe called at 11:47 p.m. David, I need you at Sam's office. Now, bring the safe key. I was there in 19 minutes. They were waiting in the conference room. The lights were low. On the table sat a single document inside a clear evidence sleeve. Chloe didn't speak. She just turned it toward me. Eleanor's life insurance beneficiary change form, dated 3 weeks before she died. Original beneficiary, the Leo Miller Educational Trust. New beneficiary, Jessica Miller, daughter. The signature at the bottom was Eleanor's name, but it wasn't Eleanor's hand. The loops were wrong. The pressure was wrong. The angle of the E was wrong. I had watched Eleanor sign Christmas cards 2 months before she died. Her hand shook from the morphine, but the letters were still hers, graceful, flowing, proud. This was a careful, healthy forgery. Chloe's voice was gentle for the first time. She stole from her dying mother, David. And she stole Leo's future to do it. I couldn't speak. The room tilted. Sam poured bourbon with a shaking hand and pushed it toward me. I didn't drink. I stared at the forgery until the letters burned into my retinas. Then I did something I hadn't done since the night Eleanor died. I put my head down on the table and cried ugly, ragged sobs that tore out of me like shrapnel. Sam's hand settled on my back. Chloe stood silent guard. When the storm passed, I wiped my face with the sleeve of my shirt and looked up. Add forgery of a dying woman's signature to the list, I said it, voice raw but steady, and make sure the judge sees this the same day the recording is played. Chloe's smile was small and terrible. Already drafted. Sam squeezed my shoulder. We're ready, brother. One more week of the performance. Then we end this. The performance almost killed me. Jessica's visits increased. She brought soup, sat on my couch, held my hand, and talked about getting me help. Each time she used Eleanor's name as a weapon, I felt the rage crystallize a little harder. On the 11th day, she crossed the final line. She arrived unannounced at 8:30 a.m., carrying a thick manila envelope and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Dad, I have something important. She sat me down in the living room, same sofa where she had plotted my imprisonment, and opened the envelope. Inside, a petition for conservatorship of David Miller filed that morning in Denver probate court. She laid the pages in my lap like a mother presenting a report card. I didn't want to do this. She began, eyes shining with crocodile tears. But you've been making some worrying decisions lately. The Arizona thing, the confusion with bills. I spoke to Dr. Miller and some friends who've seen you at events. They're concerned too. I stared at the cover page. Petitioner, Jessica Eleanor Miller. Respondent, David. Alan Miller allegation. Significant cognitive decline, inability to manage financial affairs, risk of self-harm through irrational decisions. Attached were sworn declarations. A friend claiming I forgot his name at a charity auction. Another saying I appeared disoriented and tearful at bridge club. Dr. Alan Miller, no relation, conveniently stating that during a brief informal visit arranged by my caring daughter, he observed clear signs of early dementia. I turned the pages slowly, letting her watch the confusion play across my face. Inside, something roared so loudly I was amazed she didn't hear it. Jessie, I whispered, using the childhood nickname one last time. Are you trying to take my freedom? Instant tears, perfect practiced. No, Daddy, I'm trying to protect you. This is temporary, just until you're yourself again. I'll take care of everything. You'll never have to worry. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. For one heartbeat, I considered telling her I knew. Considered playing the recording right then and watching her world collapse in my living room. Instead, I squeezed her fingers gently and let my voice break. If you think it's best, sweetheart. Relief flooded her face so violently her mask slipped for half a second. I saw it, pure naked triumph. She hugged me. I'll handle everything. You just rest. When she left, I stood at the window and watched her drive away in the Porsche I paid for. Then I called Sam. It's filed, I said. His reply was immediate. Welcome to the kill box, David. She just walked in with both feet. The hearing was set for November 18th, 2 weeks away. For those 14 days, I became the perfect victim. I let Jessica move money for safekeeping. I signed nothing, but I stopped questioning. I wandered the garden, talking to Eleanor's roses out loud so the neighbors would notice. Inside, Chloe and Sam built the guillotine. And every night I played that recording one more time. We need a conservatorship. We need full control. I played it until the words stopped being my daughter's voice and became simply evidence. Until the father in me finally fully died. And the Avenger was all that remained. On the morning of November 17th, 24 hours before the hearing, Sam called me to the office for the final briefing. The conference table was covered in weapons, Chloe's 3-inch thick financial map, color-coded, annotated lethal. The recording transcribed and authenticated. The forged insurance document with handwriting analysis. Dr. Evelyn Reed's glowing competency report, court-appointed psychiatrist who had examined me for 4 hours and declared me sharper than most 40-year-olds. Sam looked at me across the arsenal. Tomorrow she thinks she's putting you on trial, he said. We're putting her in the defendant's chair without her realizing it until the blade drops. You ready? I picked up the photograph of Eleanor they had placed in the center of the table. Her smile soft, trusting the one from our 30th anniversary. I touched her face with one finger. I've never been more ready for anything in my life, I said. Chloe closed the last folder. Then tomorrow, she said, we don't just win, we annihilate. I looked at the clock. 24 hours until my daughter learned what happens when you try to bury your father alive. 24 hours until justice wore my face in open court. I slipped Eleanor's photograph into my jacket pocket right over my heart. And for the first time since that terrible phone call, I slept. Because tomorrow the trap would close, and the predator would finally meet the man she had forgotten was there all along. It was a gray Wednesday in late October when the blade finally fell. I was in the garden pruning the last of Eleanor's roses, the ones she called Peace Pale Gold, stubborn enough to bloom even after she was gone when the phone rang. Sam's name on the screen. No greeting, no small talk. David, it's here. They filed it this morning. Conservatorship petition, full guardianship, person and estate. I have the puff in front of me. The pruning shears slipped from my hand and clattered on the stone path. "Read it," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's. Sam's tone was flat, legal, merciless. Petitioner Jessica Eleanor Miller. Respondent David Allen Miller. Allegations: significant and accelerating cognitive decline over the past 12 months, evidenced by erratic behavior, memory lapses, and poor financial judgment, placing the respondent at grave risk of destitution and homelessness. He paused. I could hear the pages turning. Primary exhibit: your sudden and irrational decision to liquidate your primary residence, which they claim demonstrates an immediate danger to your financial security. They're using the bait we fed her as proof you've lost your mind. I sank onto the garden bench. The cold soaked through my jeans. Keep going, supporting declarations attached. 2 from concerned friends, both silent investors in Tom's Mexican resort I already checked. One claims you forgot his wife's name at a charity gala. Another says you were visibly confused and emotionally volatile at a dinner in September. And the crown jewel, a psychological evaluation by Dr. Alan Miller. No relation. He states that after a brief informal consultation arranged by your loving daughter, he has serious concerns regarding capacity to manage affairs. I laughed, then a dry, cracked sound that scared even me. They paid a doctor to say I'm senile because I want to sell my own house. Exactly, Sam said. They built a perfect little cage out of lies, and they're about to lock you in it. For a moment, the garden spun, the roses blurred into streaks of gold and blood. I saw flashes: Jessica at 8 crying because a boy pulled her pigtails, running to me for protection. Jessica at 23 in her wedding dress, whispering, "I'll always be your little girl." Jessica last Christmas kissing my cheek under the mistletoe, eyes soft with love. All of it poison now. I closed my eyes. Sam, what if the judge believes them? Silence on the line, thick, terrible silence. Then Sam's voice, low and lethal. David, listen to me. This is the moment they think they've won. This is the moment they have actually lost everything. She just dragged her private crime into the brightest spotlight in Colorado. She handed us the stage, the microphone, and the audience. I opened my eyes. The roses were sharp again. The sky was sharp. My rage was sharp. Tomorrow, Sam continued, I file our response. We don't fight the petition. We welcome it. We let her walk into that courtroom thinking she's the hero saving her poor demented father. And then we open the trap. I stood up slowly. The pruning shears lay where they fell. I left them there. Tell Chloe to sharpen every blade, I said. I want her to feel this for the rest of her life. Sam exhaled, half laugh, half war cry. Already done. See you at the office in 1 hour. Bring the safe key. We have one more piece to add to the guillotine. I hung up and looked at Eleanor's roses one last time. I'm sorry I let her use your name, I whispered to the woman who wasn't there. Tomorrow it ends. The drive downtown felt like floating through a nightmare. Sam's office had become a war room. Chloe stood beside a whiteboard covered in red arrows and timelines. The forged insurance document sat in the center of the table like a black heart. Sam didn't waste time. She filed at 9:04 a.m. and he said, emergency hearing requested. They want it fast before you can squander the house. Judge assigned Margaret Okubo, tough, no-nonsense, hates elder abuse more than anything on earth. Hearing date November 18th, 17 days. 17 days to pretend I was the broken man my daughter needed me to be. 17 days to sharpen the blade behind my back. Chloe turned the whiteboard around. On it was a single photograph blown up to poster size. Jessica and Tom on a yacht in Cancun, arms raised in victory, champagne spraying. Timestamped 2 months ago. Below it in Chloe's neat handwriting, current estimated recoverable assets, $1.8 million. Current estimated criminal exposure, 15-40 years each. I stared at the photograph until their smiling faces burned into my retinas. Sam spoke quietly. This is the all is lost moment, David. The darkest before the dawn. You have to live it. You have to let her see you crumble. It's the only way she keeps walking into the trap. I nodded, throat too tight for words. Chloe handed me a small velvet box. Inside, Eleanor's wedding ring, the one she wore until the day the cancer made her fingers swell too much. I had kept it in the safe since the funeral. Wear it tomorrow when Jessica visits, Chloe said. Let her see you holding it and crying. Give her the final proof she needs that you're losing it. I closed the box. The click sounded like a coffin lid. That night, Jessica came over unannounced. Of course she did. She found me in the living room, lights low. Eleanor's ring in my palm, tears on my face that were 50% performance and 50% the real thing. Daddy, her voice was soft, careful, victorious. I looked up slowly, let her see the wreckage. I found Mom's ring. I whispered. I can't remember which finger what went on. The lie tasted like acid, but I sold it. Jessica crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt in front of me, taking the ring gently. It's okay, she soothed, slipping it onto my pinky, the only finger it still fit. This is why I filed the papers today, Dad. You don't have to fight anymore. I'll take care of everything. You can just rest. She hugged me. I let her. Over her shoulder, I saw the birdhouse on the mantel empty now, but still watching. I closed my eyes and held my daughter, the stranger wearing my little girl's face, and felt the last piece of my heart that still belonged to her turn to stone. Thank you, sweetheart, I whispered into her hair. I don't know what I'd do without you. She pulled back, eyes shining with tears that weren't for me. They were for the finish line she thought she saw. I smiled through my own tears, broken, grateful, harmless. Inside, the Avenger counted down the days. 17, 16, 15. The darkest morning had come and gone. The dawn was coming. And when it broke, my daughter would finally learn what real darkness felt like. The 17 days before the hearing were the longest siege of my life. Every morning I woke up and put on the mask, the grieving widower, the confused father, the harmless old man who couldn't remember where he left his glasses. I let Jessica move money for safekeeping, let her change the locks on the thermostat, let her pat my hand and call me Daddy in that syrupy voice that now made my skin crawl. Inside, I was a furnace. Sam's office became my second home. Chloe's updates arrived like artillery shells. Day 4 after filing, Jessica attempted to transfer the last $41,000 from my brokerage to an account titled David Miller Care Fund. Chloe had already placed a quiet fraud alert. The transfer bounced. Jessica called me in tears, terrified I'd notice. I played dumb and told her not to worry. Day 7, Tom flew to Cancun. Chloe's private investigator sent photos Tom on his knees in front of investors, literally begging. One investor was caught on video spitting on him. Day 10, we received Dr. Evelyn Reed's final report, the court-appointed psychiatrist who examined me for 6 hours over 2 sessions. Conclusion. Mr. Miller exhibits exceptional cognitive clarity, superior memory recall, and sophisticated financial understanding. His decision-making is logical, deliberate, and entirely competent. Sam read the last line aloud and actually laughed a sharp, dangerous sound. Well, that's the first nail, he said. There are about 1,000 more coming. But the real bomb fell on day 12. It was 11:47 p.m. I was at Sam's office reviewing testimony when Chloe called from her home lab. Get here now. Bring the safe key. And David, brace yourself. I was there in 18 minutes. Sam met me at the door, face white. Chloe was at the conference table under the single lamp, the way interrogators do in movies. In front of her, one document in a clear plastic sleeve. Eleanor's $1.4 million life insurance policy beneficiary change form. I knew the policy by heart. Eleanor had taken it out 25 years ago when we thought we might adopt again after Jessica left for college. She had insisted the payout go into a trust for Leo's education the day he was born. No child of mine will ever worry about college, she had said, kissing his tiny forehead. The form in front of me was dated 3 weeks before she died. Original beneficiary line, the Leo Miller Educational Trust. New beneficiary line, handwritten in blue ink, Jessica Miller, daughter, and at the bottom, Eleanor's signature. But it wasn't Eleanor's signature. I had watched her sign sympathy cards from her hospital bed, hand trembling from morphine, but still elegant, still hers. The E had a proud swoop. The R's tail curled like a cat. This signature was careful, deliberate, the letters too, even the pressure too uniform. Healthy handwriting. Chloe's voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I pulled every document Eleanor ever signed in the last 5 years. Christmas cards, medical consents, birthday checks to Leo. Then I had Daniel Ishikawa, best handwriting expert on the West Coast fly-in tonight. His conclusion is 99.8% certainty. She slid Ishikawa's report across. The forger studied Eleanor's genuine signature, but over-controlled the pen. Look at the tremor simulation too regular. Look at the hesitation marks where they lifted the pen to check proportions. This wasn't written by a dying woman on painkillers. This was written by someone healthy sitting at a desk with all the time in the world. Sam's voice was almost a whisper. She stole from her mother while Eleanor was too weak to hold a pen. Then she stole Leo's future to fund her beach palace. I couldn't breathe. I saw Eleanor in those final weeks, skin translucent eyes, huge in her sunken face, still trying to smile when Leo came to visit. I remembered her whispering to me one night, voice barely audible. Make sure Leo's trust is safe. Promise me, David. I had promised. And Jessica had sat beside that bed, holding her mother's hand with one hand and forging her name with the other. Something inside me detonated. Not rage, something colder, older, biblical. I picked up the forged document with shaking fingers. Add this to the exhibit list, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. And make sure it's the last thing the judge sees before she rules. Chloe's eyes met mine. For the first time, there was something like compassion in them. Already done, she said. This one doesn't just destroy her case. It destroys her soul in open court. Sam poured 3 bourbons. We didn't toast. We drank like men, swallowing medicine. Then we worked until dawn. The war room grew teeth. Chloe produced the final financial map, 3 inches thick, bound in black, titled, Simply People versus Jessica Miller, Financial Forensics. Inside, every stolen dollar traced, color-coded, annotated, a work of devastating beauty. Sam drafted the cross-examinations. For the 2 concerned friends, questions about their own investments in Mar de Sueños. For Dr. Alan Miller, questions about the $15,000 wire he received from Elysian Designs 2 days after signing his report. For Jessica, 147 questions designed to make her bleed in public. I had my own preparation. Every night I sat in Eleanor's garden with Leo's trust documents, the real ones, the ones she had actually signed, and I spoke to her out loud. I'm going to give him back what you meant for him. I swear it. On the night before the hearing, Sam called me to the office one last time. The table was clear except for 4 items. The recording of Jessica saying we need a conservatorship, the forged insurance form, Dr. Reed's competency report, a small velvet box containing Eleanor's wedding ring. Sam looked at me for a long time. Tomorrow, he said, you will sit in that courtroom and watch your daughter try to bury you. You will see her cry, lie, perform, and you will say nothing until I call you to the stand. Can you do that? I picked up Eleanor's ring and slipped it onto my pinky, the only finger it still fit. I've been silent for 2 years while she stole my life, I said. One more day is nothing. Chloe entered carrying a single flash drive. Everything is loaded, she said. Financial map recording, forgery, analysis, bank records, the works. One click and the screen in court will become her coffin lid. She hesitated the first time I'd ever seen her hesitate. David, when this is over, most of the money can be recovered. But she's still your daughter. There will be a moment, maybe tomorrow, maybe years from now, when you'll have to decide if there's anything left to forgive. I looked at the forged signature one last time. She stopped being my daughter the day she forged her dying mother's name, I said. Tomorrow the court just makes it official. Sam handed me a small envelope. Inside, a new trust document. The Leo Miller Educational Trust, fully restored, $1.4 million already seeded from frozen accounts growing daily. Sign it tonight, he said, so that no matter what else happens, Eleanor's last wish is safe. I signed with a steady hand. Then I went home, sat in the dark, and waited for morning. At 3:00 a.m., I walked to the mantel and took down the little birdhouse, empty now, but still watching. I spoke to it the way I once spoke to Eleanor's photograph. Tomorrow, darling, I whispered, we finish this. Tomorrow, your name stops being a weapon in her mouth. I placed the birdhouse back exactly as it was. Then I went to bed fully dressed, shoes on like a soldier waiting for the signal to attack. Because tomorrow wasn't just a hearing, it was Judgment Day. And I was no longer the defendant. I was the reckoning. November 18th at 8:27 a.m. Denver Probate Court courtroom. The hallway outside was cold marble and fluorescent light. I stood against the wall in the same charcoal suit I'd worn to bury Eleanor, hands in my pockets so no one would see them shake. Around my neck under the starched shirt, the flash drive rested against my heart like a second pulse. Sam was beside me, calm as winter steel. Chloe stood 3 feet away, black suit hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, eyes scanning every face that passed. She had not slept in 48 hours and looked like she could run a marathon through fire. Across the corridor, Jessica arrived. She wore soft dove gray mourning colors for the father she was about to declare dead. Her hair was perfect. Her eyes were red-rimmed, expertly done, just enough tears to look devoted, not enough to ruin the makeup. Tom stood behind her in a navy suit that cost more than most people's cars, hand on the small of her back, like a proud husband escorting his wife to the Oscars. When she saw me, her face crumpled with rehearsed grief. "Daddy," she whispered, crossing the distance, arms open. I let her hug me. I even hugged back, one arm gentle, the way a confused old man might. I felt the diamonds on her bracelet bite into my neck, the same bracelet I had paid for with blood. I didn't know I was bleeding. "I'm so sorry it had to come to this," she murmured into my shoulder, loud enough for the reporters already gathering. "I love you. I'm only trying to protect you." I patted her back twice. "I know, sweetheart. I know." She pulled away, eyes shining with crocodile tears. For one heartbeat, I let her see something in my face, just a flicker, and watch the smile falter. Then the mask slid back into place. The bailiff opened the doors. "All rise." Judge Margaret Okubo entered, small Japanese-American, 60. If she was a day, eyes like a hawk that had seen every lie ever told in her courtroom. Rumor said she kept a photo of her own mother lost to a predatory conservatorship in the 90s on her desk. Sam had smiled when he heard which judge we drew. God was in the details. We took our seats. Jessica sat at the petitioner's table with her attorney, Richard Harlan, tall, silver-haired, 900 an hour, famous for keeping rich families' dirty laundry out of the press. He looked confident. He shouldn't have. Sam, Chloe, and I sat opposite. I was the respondent, but today I felt like the prosecutor. The judge wasted no time. "This is a petition for plenary guardianship of David Allen Miller. Ms. Harlan, you may proceed." And the show began. Harlan painted a masterpiece of filial devotion. He called Jessica first. She took the stand like she was born to it. Soft voice trembling, and tears on command. "Dad has been declining rapidly since Mom died," she said, dabbing her eyes. "He forgets conversations minutes after they happen. He talks to Mom's photograph for hours. He almost sold our family home on a whim to move to some retirement community in Arizona. I'm terrified he'll be homeless or scammed. I just want to protect what's left of him." She cried. Real tears this time. The jury, there was no jury, but the gallery leaned forward like there was one, ate it up. Harlan introduced the declarations. The friend who swore I forgot his wife's name. The Bridge Club widow who claimed I cried over a wrong bid. Judge Allen Miller, smug in his white coat, testifying via video link that I showed clear markers of moderate to severe cognitive impairment. Sam never objected once. He just took notes, calm as a surgeon. When Harlan rested, the judge looked at Sam. "Mr. Chen, your response." Sam stood slowly. "Your Honor, the respondent does not contest the need for this hearing. In fact, we welcome it. We believe the evidence will speak clearly about who exactly needs protection today." Jessica's head snapped toward me. I met her eyes and gave her the smallest, saddest smile. The trap door opened. Sam called Dr. Evelyn Reed first. The court-appointed psychiatrist took the stand, tall, silver-haired, kind eyes that missed nothing. She had examined me for 8 hours over 3 sessions. "Dr. Reed, in your professional opinion, is David Miller suffering from cognitive decline?" "No," she said firmly. "Mr. Miller's cognition is exceptional. His memory recall is in the top 2% for his age cohort. His executive function is superior. He is entirely competent to manage his person and his estate." Harlan objected, lack of foundation bias, whatever he could think of. Overruled. Jessica's face went very still. Sam entered Dr. Reed's 42-page report into evidence. Then he turned to the judge. "Your Honor, at this time, the respondent moves to dismiss the petition with prejudice and requests an immediate evidentiary hearing on criminal elder abuse pursuant to Colorado Statute 18 to 6.5103. The gallery gasped. Jessica went white. Judge Okubo's eyes narrowed. On what grounds, counsel? On the grounds that the petitioner has engaged in systematic financial exploitation of the respondent totaling over $3 million, supported by forensic accounting audio evidence, and multiple forgeries, including one executed while the respondent's late wife lay dying. The courtroom exploded. The judge banged her gavel so hard I thought it would splinter. Order, Mr. Chen, you will present your evidence in order. Bailiff, clear the gallery if there is one more outburst. Silence fell like a guillotine. Sam called Chloe Armstrong to the stand. Chloe walked up like she owned the building. She was sworn in, sat in the large screen behind her, lit up with the first slide of her financial map. For the next 36 minutes, she dismantled Jessica's life dollar by dollar. She showed the withdrawals just under reporting thresholds. The shell companies, the jewelry, the Porsche, the Mexican resort bleeding money like an open artery, the offshore accounts in Leo's name. Every time Harlan tried to object, the judge shut him down. Overruled. Continue, Ms. Armstrong. When Chloe reached the slide titled Mar de Sueños, current status insolvent, Tom made a sound like a wounded animal. Jessica stared straight ahead, hands clenched so tight her knuckles were bone. Then Sam played the recording. The courtroom speakers crackled to life. Tom's panicked voice. The Mexico investors are threatening lawsuits. Jessica, ice cold. Then we take the next step. We need a conservatorship. We need full control. Jessica's head dropped. Her shoulders began to shake, not with tears, with terror. The judge's face turned to granite. Sam wasn't finished. He called Daniel Ishikawa, the handwriting expert. Ishikawa took the stand and projected Eleanor's real signatures from her final months. Shaky morphine trembled, but unmistakably hers next to the forged insurance beneficiary form. 99.8% probability of forgery, he concluded. Executed by a right-handed individual in good health, likely over multiple sessions with tracing paper. Sam placed the forged form on the overhead projector. The gallery saw Eleanor's name trembling but fake stealing $1.4 million from her own grandson while she lay dying. Jessica made a sound, half sob, half scream, and stood up. I would never. Sit down, Ms. Miller, the judge snapped. Jessica collapsed back into her chair. Sam turned to me. Mr. Miller, please take the stand. I walked to the witness box on legs that felt borrowed. I was sworn in. Sam's voice was gentle. Mr. Miller, did you ever authorize your daughter to take these funds? No. Did you ever authorize her to change your late wife's insurance beneficiary sum? Did you ever show signs of cognitive decline? Only when I was pretending so she would keep talking where I could record her. The gallery gasped again. Sam handed me the original trust document, the one Eleanor had actually signed, creating the Leo Miller Educational Trust. I held it up. My wife made me promise this money would go to our grandson's education. Jessica heard that promise. 3 weeks later, she forged her dying mother's signature to steal it. My voice cracked, not performance, this time raw truth. I loved my daughter with every cell in my body. I would have died for her. She decided I should live as her prisoner instead, and when that wasn't enough, she tried to bury me while I was still breathing. I looked directly at Jessica. She was crying openly now, mascara running in black rivers. I'm sorry, she whispered. Daddy, I'm so sorry. The judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. Miss Miller, you will be silent. Sam rested. Harlan tried to salvage something, anything, calling Jessica back for redirect, but it was like watching a man bail out the Titanic with a teaspoon. When he finished, Judge Okubo looked at Jessica for a long, terrible moment. Then she spoke. This petition is not only denied, it is dismissed with prejudice. The court finds clear and convincing evidence of criminal elder financial abuse. I am referring this matter to the district attorney for immediate prosecution on multiple felony counts, including theft, forgery, and conspiracy. She turned to the bailiff. Take Ms. Miller and Mr. Reynolds into custody. Jessica screamed an animal sound as deputies moved in. Tom tried to run. He made it 3 steps before he was tackled. Jessica fought, clawing, sobbing my name over and over. Daddy, please, Daddy, tell them. Tell them I didn't mean it. I stood. For one heartbeat, the entire courtroom held its breath. I walked to where the deputies were cuffing her. She looked up at me, face destroyed, lipstick, smeared eyes wild. Daddy, she sobbed, please. I love you. I knelt so we were eye to eye. You stopped being my daughter the day you forged your mother's name, I said very quietly. Today the world just found out. I stood and walked away. Behind me, her scream followed me all the way down the corridor. Sam caught up with me outside. The November air hit my face like cold water. He didn't say anything. He just put a hand on my shoulder. Chloe joined us a minute later carrying the black binder that had ended a life. She handed me a new document, the fully restored Leo Miller Educational Trust, now worth $192 million and growing. Signed, sealed, and untouchable, she said. I took it with shaking hands. Somewhere inside the building, my daughter was being read her rights. Somewhere inside me, a father was finally laid to rest. I looked up at the gray sky and felt something loosen in my chest. Not peace, not yet, but the first breath I'd taken in 2 years that didn't taste like betrayal. Sam spoke softly. It's over, David. I shook my head. No, I said, it's finally begun, because some wounds don't heal. They cauterize, and the scar is the proof you survived. Spring came late that year. It was the first week of May before the last snow melted off Eleanor's rose beds and the garden finally decided to forgive the world. I was on my knees in the dirt the morning the letter arrived, wrist-stained green hair full of petals, 69 years old and feeling every minute of it. The mailman handed it to me personally, thick cream envelope, Denver County seal, my name typed in severe black letters. I knew what it was before I opened it. I carried it inside, set it on the kitchen table unopened, and made coffee the way Eleanor taught me, strong enough to wake the dead, sweet enough to forgive them. Only then did I sit down and slit the envelope. Inside, the final judgment: Jessica Eleanor Miller, guilty on all counts. 16 years Colorado Department of Corrections. Thomas Michael Reynolds, guilty, 12 years. Full restitution ordered $3,241,988. All assets forfeited. The Leo Miller Educational Trust, restored untouchable, now valued at $2.4 million and growing. I read it twice, then I folded it neatly, placed it in the drawer with Eleanor's wedding ring, the one I still couldn't wear on my left hand, and went back to the garden. The roses didn't care about verdicts. They only cared that someone still loved them enough to kneel in the dirt. That afternoon, Leo came over. 16, now taller than me, voice cracking between boy and man. He stood in the doorway in his soccer jersey, eyes wary the way they had been for months, like he was waiting for the next bomb to drop. I opened my arms. He walked straight into them and held on so tight I felt his heart beat against my ribs. Grandpa, he whispered, voice breaking, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know what they were doing. I held him closer. You have nothing to be sorry for, kid, nothing. We stood like that a long time. When he finally pulled away, his eyes were red but dry. I read the trust papers, he said quietly. The whole thing, Mom. She tried to take everything Grandma wanted from me. I nodded. No point lying anymore. He looked out at the garden, then back at me. I don't want the money if it hurts you. I took his face in my dirt-stained hands. Your grandmother fought cancer for 18 months, so you would never have to choose between dreams and debt. That money is hers. It's yours. And it's staying exactly where she wanted it. He swallowed hard. I miss her, he said. Me too, buddy. Every day. We went outside and sat on the bench by the peace roses. The air smelled like heaven after rain. I told him the part I hadn't told anyone else. That I had set up a second trust, smaller, quieter. The Eleanor Miller Scholarship Fund. For kids who lost parents to greed or cancer or both. First recipient, a girl in Aurora whose mother died of the same disease, whose father cleaned offices at night to keep her in school. Leo listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned his head on my shoulder the way he did when he was 5. I want to help pick the next recipients, he said. I kissed the top of his head. Deal. Summer came soft and slow. The house sold in June, not to strangers, to a young couple expecting their first child. They walked through the garden, and the wife cried when she saw the roses. Said her own mother had grown the same variety before she passed. I sold it to them for exactly what Eleanor and I paid in 1987, plus the cost of keeping the garden alive. They tried to argue. I wouldn't let them. Some things aren't for sale. I moved into a small cottage 3 miles away. 1 story wide, windows, a courtyard big enough for roses. I took only what mattered at the photographs, Eleanor's recipe cards, the grandfather clock, and every single rose bush I could dig up and transplant. The first night in the new place, I sat on the patio with a glass of bourbon and watched the sun set over my new, smaller kingdom. The phone rang. "Sam, turn on channel 9, he said. Voice strange, I did. Jessica's face filled the screen. Orange jumpsuit hair pulled back, no makeup. An interview from prison, one of the human interest segments they do when the ratings need a boost. The reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. Do you have anything to say to your father? The camera zoomed in. Jessica looked straight into it, into me, and started to cry. I know he'll never forgive me, she said, voice raw. I don't deserve it. I just want him to know I'm sorry. Every day I wake up sorry. Tell him I finally understand what love is supposed to be. The segment ended. I stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then I turned off the television, walked outside, and watered the roses. Some apologies come too late to matter. Some wounds only close when you stop picking at them. Autumn painted the courtyard gold. Leo started his senior year captain of the soccer team, 4.0 GPA, early acceptance to Stanford. Every Friday he came over after practice. We cooked Eleanor's lasagna, watched old movies, and never once talked about the trial unless he brought it up first. One October evening, he found me in the garden deadheading the last blooms before frost. He sat on the bench and was quiet so long, I thought something was wrong. Grandpa, he said, finally, do you ever miss her? I knew which her he meant. I sat beside him. Every day, I said, but not the woman who stood in that courtroom. I missed the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest during thunderstorms. That girl stopped existing a long time before the judge's gavel fell. He nodded slowly. I keep thinking maybe if I'd noticed something stop. I took his hand. She made her choices. We're making ours, and ours include college and roses and Friday night lasagna. That's enough. He leaned his head on my shoulder again. Yeah, he whispered. It's enough. Winter came early. On the anniversary of Eleanor's death, I woke before dawn, made coffee, and drove to the cemetery. The ground was covered in fresh snow. Her stone was clean. I paid a service to keep it that way. I brushed the snow off the bench beside her and sat. Hi, darling, I said out loud. It's done. Leo's safe. The garden's smaller now, but the roses made it. And the girl in Aurora got her scholarship. She starts nursing school in the fall. She wants to work in oncology. I pulled a single white rose from my coat, forced in the greenhouse the last one of the year, and laid it at the base of the stone. I kept my promise, I whispered. The wind moved through the pines, soft as breath. For the first time in 3 years, I felt her answer. Christmas Eve. Leo and I strung lights on the little cottage, burned the lasagna on purpose because it made us laugh, and opened one present each at midnight tradition. His gift to me, a small wooden sign he had carved in shop class. It read, Miller Men Water Roses. I hung it above the courtyard gate. My gift to him, an envelope. Inside, a plane ticket to Boston, a reservation at a hotel near MIT, and a note that said, second opinion never hurts. If you like it better, we'll make it work, he cried. I let him. Then we sat on the patio under a heat lamp and watched the snow fall on the sleeping roses. He fell asleep with his head on my shoulder, 16 going on 17, safe, loved, and finally free. I carried him to the guest room. He was too big now, but some things a grandfather does anyway. Tucked him in and stood in the doorway a long time. The house was quiet. The war was over. The garden would bloom again. And somewhere in the dark, Eleanor smiled. I whispered goodnight to both of them, my wife and the boy who would carry her, love, into the future, and closed the door softly. Outside, the snow kept falling, gentle and forgiving. Inside, for the first time in years, an old man slept without nightmares. Because some stories don't end with revenge. They end with roses. And love that refuses to die.